The room went silent when the billionaire raised her hand and offered a struggling single father $1 million for a single punch. Nobody laughed. Nobody moved. Because everyone knew there was something dangerous hidden behind that offer. A desperate man had walked into a world of luxury and power, and now he had to choose between his pride and the future of his child. The single father, Kaelen Voss, stood in the middle of the private training hall with tired eyes, worn shoes, and a jacket that had clearly survived more winters than anyone should have to endure. Across from him stood the woman who owned the building, the company, and almost everything around him. Her name was Serafina Vale, a billionaire known for her sharp mind, fearless decisions, and a heart that most people believed had turned to stone. She looked at him and said, "One punch. That's all. You hit me once, and the money is yours." A crowd of executives, celebrities, and investors watched in disbelief. They thought Kaelen would accept immediately. After all, his rent was overdue, his daughter's medical bills were growing, and his small repair business was barely keeping them alive. But Kaelen looked at Serafina and shook his head. Not because he was proud. Because he was afraid. Afraid that if he raised his fist, even for $1 million, he would become the kind of person he promised his daughter he would never be. Before we continue this emotional journey, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of helping others, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Heart Kindness Tales for more inspiring stories. The story of Kaelen Voss did not begin in a mansion or a room full of powerful people. It began in a tiny apartment above an old bakery, where the smell of fresh bread often mixed with the sound of unpaid bills being opened on the kitchen table. Kaelen had once been a talented mechanic with dreams of opening his own auto shop. He loved fixing things because he believed every broken object deserved another chance. Cars, machines, even old furniture. He always said that nothing was truly useless if someone cared enough to repair it. Life changed when his wife passed away after a sudden illness. Overnight, Kaelen became a single father to his 7-year-old daughter, Maribel. He was not prepared for the loneliness, the fear, or the impossible responsibility of raising a child while carrying his own grief. But every morning, he woke up, packed Maribel's lunch, tied her shoes, and smiled even when he had no reason to. He worked long hours repairing cars in a small garage, delivering packages at night, and taking every extra job he could find. Some days, he skipped meals so Maribel could have enough. Some nights, he sat beside her bed listening to her breathe because he needed to remind himself that there was still something beautiful in his life. Maribel knew her father struggled, but she never saw him as a poor man. She saw him as a hero. One evening, while Kaelen was fixing an old bicycle, Maribel asked him why he never bought anything nice for himself. He smiled and told her, "Because the best things I have are already sitting right in front of me." Maribel hugged him and said, "You're the richest person I know, Dad." Those words stayed with him. But even love could not stop reality from knocking. A few weeks later, Kaelen discovered that Maribel needed an expensive treatment for a condition that had been getting worse. The doctors said it was manageable, but the cost was far beyond what he could afford. He felt his world collapsing. He called every organization he could find. He asked for payment plans. He sold almost everything valuable. But the numbers never changed. Then, one night, while searching online for help, he found a strange opportunity. A private challenge hosted by Serafina Vale. The announcement was simple. A person who could prove courage and determination would receive a life-changing reward. Kaelen almost ignored it. It sounded impossible. Billionaires did not help ordinary people like him. But the application asked one question. What would you sacrifice everything for? Kaelen wrote only one sentence. My daughter's future. Days later, he received an invitation. That was how he ended up standing in that luxurious training hall. Serafina watched him carefully. She was not smiling. She was studying him. Everyone thought she was cruel. The media often described her as someone who could buy anything but never truly cared about anyone. But behind the headlines was a woman carrying a pain she rarely showed. Years earlier, Serafina had watched her younger brother destroy his life because nobody believed in giving him another chance. After losing him, she became obsessed with testing people's character. She wanted to know who was willing to fight, who was willing to endure, and who was only chasing money. She believed the world was full of people who talked about kindness but disappeared when someone needed them. That was why she created the challenge. She wanted to find someone different. And she thought Kaelen might be that person. Still, she pushed him. "Why won't you do it?" she asked. Kaelen looked around the room. "Because money shouldn't decide what kind of person I become." The crowd became uncomfortable. Nobody expected that answer. Serafina stepped closer. "You need the money." Kaelen lowered his eyes. "Yes. Your daughter needs it." "Yes." "Then why are you refusing?" Kaelen swallowed. "Because she needs her father more than she needs $1 million. For the first time in years, Serafina Vale had no response. But before she could speak, her bodyguard, Darius Kaelen, stepped forward. Darius had protected Serafina for nearly a decade. He had seen her through threats, betrayals, and painful losses. He was not a man who showed emotion easily. But now his voice trembled. "Enough, Serafina." Everyone turned. The billionaire looked at him. "What did you say?" Darius looked at Kaelen, then back at her. "I said stop." The room froze. Nobody talked to Serafina like that. He continued, "I've watched you test hundreds of people. I've watched you search for someone who is real. You finally found him." Serafina looked away. "You don't understand." "No," Darius replied. "I understand more than anyone." His voice became softer. "You're not trying to see if he's strong enough to take a punch. You're trying to see if someone is strong enough to show mercy." Those words hit harder than any punch ever could. Serafina looked at Kaelen again. For the first time, she noticed the details everyone else ignored. The tired hands. The old jacket. The way he kept checking his phone, probably waiting for a message about his daughter. This man was not chasing money. He was fighting for someone he loved. And that was something Serafina understood. Because she had once lost someone she loved too. The room remained silent until Serafina finally asked, "What is your daughter's name?" Kaelen hesitated. "Maribel." A strange sadness appeared in Serafina's eyes. "My brother's name was Elias," she whispered. "He was 7 years old when our parents left him behind emotionally. He spent his whole life believing nobody would choose him." She paused. "I promised myself I would never watch someone suffer like that again." Nobody moved. Then Serafina walked toward Kaelen and handed him a check. But this time, there was no challenge. No condition. No test. "This is for Maribel," she said. Kaelen stared at it. "I can't accept this." "You can," Serafina replied. "Because this isn't charity. It's an investment in someone who reminded me what humanity looks like." Kaelen's eyes filled with tears. For years, he had been strong for everyone else. But standing there, someone was finally being strong for him. The money changed everything. Maribel received her treatment. Kaelen was able to reopen his dream repair shop. But the biggest change was not financial. It was the connection between two people from completely different worlds. Serafina began visiting the repair shop. She learned how ordinary people lived. She laughed more. She listened more. And Kaelen reminded her that success was not measured by what someone owned. It was measured by what someone gave. Months later, Serafina attended the opening of Kaelen's new workshop. A small sign hung above the door. Second Chance's Garage. When asked why he chose that name, Kaelen smiled. Because everything deserves another chance. Including people. Including broken hearts. Including those who think they are beyond saving. Before we reach the end of this story, I want to ask you something special. If this story touched your heart, please leave a comment sharing what kindness means to you. Your words might inspire someone else who needs hope today. Years later, Maribel would grow up and ask her father about the day a billionaire offered him $1 million to take one punch. Kaelen would smile and say, "That wasn't the day someone offered me money. It was the day someone reminded me that kindness still exists." And somewhere in the world, Serafina Vale continued helping people who felt invisible, because one struggling father had shown her something money never could. A true human heart is not measured by power, wealth, or success. It is measured by the courage to care. If this story moved you, please engage with this video by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Sometimes a simple action can help these stories reach someone who needs a reminder that kindness is still alive.